Welcome to our Advanced Value Track Applications training video. Today, our presentation will be broken down into 6 sections. Introduction, comparing products, comparing a product to a category of products, comparing a listing to a listing, comparing a seller to a seller, and lastly, comparing similar entries across eBay sites. Let's start with the introduction. Most sellers using ValueTrack primarily use the feature to track a keyword, seller, or listing to see how their performance metrics perform over time, such as success rate, listing volume, or average selling price. However, ValueTrack's functionalities far exceed the single-dimension nature mentioned previously. You often hear about the phrase, "You are only as good as your competition." One of ValueTrack's most powerful features is its ability to compare the performance of 2 or more entries over time. Let's now look at comparing similar products. Advanced sellers often like to compare similar products side by side in ValueTrack in order to measure head-to-head popularity. This allows a seller to better allocate their cash towards inventory and also their procurement department towards the right products. Let's now look at ValueTrack in Terapeak. For example, a smartphone seller might want to compare an iPhone 4 white model versus an iPhone 4 black model. And a shoe seller might want to compare a LeBron James 8 basketball shoe versus a LeBron James Soldier basketball shoes. And lastly, a motor parts seller might want to compare BMW headlights versus Benz headlights. Aside from viewing each product's average price, listings, and success rate individually and how they change over time incrementally, a seller might want to compare one product to the other relatively. So for example, if my cost of sourcing a white iPhone is the same as a black iPhone, I can definitely see from this data that the white iPhone, first of all, the price is converging to the black iPhone, dropping by $15.66, but also the margins will be much higher selling the white versus black. However, when I compare listing volumes, the listings are about a third on the white model versus the black model. So therefore, these statistics show me changes over time and allow me to find out that white models saw at a higher margin but on lesser volume. So therefore, again, ValueTrack can update critical statistics to the seller on a weekly basis to empower the seller to make critical management decisions. Let's now compare a product to a category of products. Advanced sellers will also compare a particular product to an entire family of products to gauge relative performance in the industry, and also if this product is rising in popularity or falling out of fashion. This is often done by defining a category of products as a baseline and then assessing the product performance by how its statistics deviate from the baseline. Now let's assume that we're a tablet seller and we wanted to track the entire tablet segment. Let's now go to ValueTrack. You can see on the first row we have the word tablet, and we've also filtered out for the category 171485, which is the tablet subcategory in eBay.com. So we can understand on average how the tablet segment's performing in terms of average price, listings, and success rate. On the next 3 rows, you'll find 3 different types of tablets: the Samsung Galaxy, the Kindle 3, and the iPad 2. By putting these products next to the keyword tablet, the seller can easily tell how popular each tablet is relative to the segment on average. For example, if you look at the tablet Last week, the price dropped on average by $55, while the success rate dropped by 4.78%. So that's about a 10 to 20% drop on average across the entire segment. However, when we look at the iPad 2, we can see that's growing in popularity relative to the average. The price has gone up by 7 to 8%. The listings have gone up, and also the success rates have gone up. And even more importantly, the seller can use these statistics and monitor them over time on a weekly basis. Now let's compare a listing to a listing. One of the most popular ways to use value track is to compare a listing to a listing. Sellers primarily use this feature to understand how changing a listing attribute can affect the ultimate listing performance. Before we start, it's important for you to note that to track a specific listing, you can enter a specific item title surrounded by quotations. Let's now go to value track. Let's assume that we were a video game seller and wanted to sell a video game called Call of Duty Black Ops. You can see that we entered in the first two entries, Call of Duty Black Ops surrounded by quotes and Call of Duty Black Ops Mint surrounded by quotes. The differentiating keyword is the word mint. I can punch these titles into value track, and over time I can see whether this single keyword would impact overall sales in terms of average price and success rate. And indeed it has. You can see that on average you can theoretically launch any two listings with a single different listing attribute to test how the market reacts. Other popular attributes to test include differentiating price, subtitle versus no subtitle, top-rated seller versus non-top-rated seller accounts, item conditions, for example, new versus good condition, bold versus no bold, eBay categories, eBay sites, and even more. Testing these listing attributes over time will help you fine-tune your listing strategy over time. Now let's understand how to compare a seller to a seller. Scouring through thousands of listings per day may be time-consuming and exhausting. It may be even more difficult to notice any change in competition. Value Track provides a great barometer for sensing change in your competition. Most advanced sellers are well aware of who their competitors are. Putting your seller ID next to that of your competitors allows you to understand your competition and to react in swift and commanding fashion. Now let's go to Value Track. For example, let's assume that my eBay ID is Concept Electronics and my competitor's ID is Go for Computers. When I compare the two IDs, I will take note of the current average price, listing volumes, and success rates. Then I will monitor relative changes over time. Let's say that we are looking at average prices or any significant changes in average prices. A relative decrease may indicate aggressive pricing changes, or any potential big movements, such as the one that you see here, a rise in $18 or $55, may indicate a significant change in product mix. Moving to the right, let's look at listing volume changes. A decrease, such as the ones that you see here, may indicate that the seller is phasing out some products or even just listing less. An increase may indicate the seller has added potential prospective products to his product mix. And then moving right, Let's look at success rate percentage. Any big success rate changes, such as increases or decreases, can indicate changes in account standings or changes in search standings. These are all related to DSRs. We advise sellers to always look for significant changes in any of the above figures and allow this to be a trigger to go into eBay, search for the seller, and investigate your competitor's account to understand more. Now let's learn how to compare similar entries across eBay sites. The final application of ValueTrack is to allow sellers to understand how products, sellers, and listings perform across eBay marketplaces. This allows a seller to realign strategies that optimize efforts in more profitable geographies. Now let's go to ValueTrack. For example, I can compare how a Coach tote bag sells in the US compared to in the UK. You can see here on ValueTrack that the average selling price and the success rates are much higher in the UK versus the US. By learning this information, I can decide where to allocate my sales efforts. Similarly, I can go up top and enter in a competitor, two entries in different countries, for example in the US and in the UK, in order for me to monitor how this competitor performs regionally. This allows me to make intelligent decisions to decide which region works best for me, or in other words, which regions to avoid or go head-on with competition. Lastly, at the top, you can also enter in two listings for the same product. For example, I can see how a product sells in the US versus the UK to test which market has a bigger audience or generates more profit over time. Remember, it is very important to monitor your ValueTrack entries each week to understand the changes over time. ValueTrack will save up to 25 items, and upgrades are available to expand this limit. To understand more about ValueTrack, we recommend you to view our other ValueTrack videos. If you have further questions, you can reach us conveniently with the contact details here. Thank you.